So good morning, everyone. It's the 2nd of March. We have our Launch Partners monthly team call. We want to focus today on, I think, the skill that is what feels like it evades so many of us, and yet is at the very heart of what is essential for our success in network marketing. And that is the skill of duplicating. We all, I think everyone that join these calls shares a common desire, not just to move the work forward and to contribute and be a part, but also to get some personal success out of that and to see some fruits from their labors. And I wanted to touch on a couple of things that I think are helpful for us to consider and be mindful of when we are building our businesses, and some things that we need to make sure we keep as priorities in order to help increase the opportunities for duplication within our group. I think the first one is, and we've discussed this a number of times, and I share this again. Maybe I need to mute the background. I haven't done that yet. Of course, a friendly reminder: add to the chat, add to the comments, unmute, share your thoughts as we go through, because this is an important conversation for discussion purposes. It's good to get people's feedback on what they feel works, so that we can share with the group. At the heart of this lies a fundamental behavior or activity, and it is, of course, a reaction versus an action, and that is the reaction of recruitment. At the heart of duplication lies the first step, which is sponsoring new people. Now, this is at the heart for a number of reasons. One, if we don't have new people coming in, there's no one that's going to be duplicating. But two, I think it's important for each of us to understand the element of statistics that is applied in the laws of sales in general, not just in network marketing. I think if you were to look at sales in general, I've used a statistic a number of times before, that it's between the 5th and 12th contact before someone finally makes a decision to make a purchase, which means what is taking place between the 5th and 7th contact in order for people to say yes to something. If we're inviting them 12 times, that might feel a lot like we're badgering. So there is relationship building, nurturing, providing service, doing good for people in order to help see them reach a point where they want to say yes. But not only that, we know, and we can see this from big businesses everywhere, that they don't rest on their laurels with the existing clientele that they have. They can't afford to do that. Coca-Cola, for example, as a very globally recognized brand, still goes out there and advertises every day, week, month of the year. We see them sponsoring sporting events. We see them on our television screens. We see them on billboards and magazines all over the internet. And yet they're a globally established multi-billion-dollar brand. Why do they still do that? Because they know that there is really no such thing as a loyal customer. We need to make sure that people remain loyal because we provide a continuing reason for them to stay connected, which means we're always needing to reach out to them. So I think it's important for us to recognize, whilst we talk of loyalty in our business, I think what we have here on this call is a collective group of very loyal people. I think when we get to this stage of the business, loyalty is quite entrenched. But for the rank and file, for the vast majority in most businesses, the customer, the client, doesn't demonstrate long-term loyalty. Certainly not in today's day and age with business. So it's important for us to recognize the need to continue to nurture our relationships, both with people on our contact list and with people that are already in our business, existing business partners, and of course, our existing customers. Now, again, I share this because at the front end of this, we've seen the statistics many times over, and I would ask each of you a rhetorical question. You don't need to answer this. Everyone on this call has been here for a while in NECAN, so you've all got tenure, experience in network marketing. How many times have you seen people join the business, get sponsored, not as a customer, as a consultant, and then they've done nothing? Have you seen that happen? Have you seen that happen a few times? Have you seen it happen a lot? Yeah. I want you to know you're not alone. And again, one of the great privileges that I feel I've got to bring to the table with my experience is the unique perspective of seeing inside other multi-level marketing companies. And I can tell you what you've experienced, the nodding heads that I see in the room today. You are not unique. It is not unique to Nikan. It is the nature of the business that a lot of people join and do nothing. Now, I would even take it a step further and say it is not just a unique feature of network marketing. How many times have I joined a gym and then done nothing? I've got gym membership for a year and I go, I really should go to the gym this month. You know, how many times does that happen? And when you go to the gym at the beginning of the year, oh, it's crowded. You can't get a place. You're kind of lining up to get onto the next machine. But a few months later, you could swing a cat in there and it wouldn't hit anything, because that is human nature, isn't it? So I think it's important for us psychologically to appreciate the element of human nature in our desires to get duplication in our business. So, and again, I reiterate this. We don't want to internalize the challenges that we face when we strive to get duplication. That golden nugget. I got this email, if you signed up to Eric Worre's emails that he sends out, he called it a unicorn. He said, I saw a unicorn the other day. It's like bouncing through the forest. That one thing that we see every now and then in network marketing called duplication. It shouldn't be a unicorn. Yeah, it shouldn't be that. But for many of us, that's what it feels like it is. But we don't want to look at that and go, well, that's just because it's my forest. That's because I'm looking in the wrong direction. We've got to look at the statistics. We've got to look at human nature. And we've got to put these things together and say, based on these two things, what do I need to do differently? Yeah. So if statistically, a vast majority of people get recruited and do nothing, or they stick around for a little bit, or that term, the loyal customer, is something that is really changing nowadays because of a very competitive landscape in the marketplace. What do we do about that? And then human nature, human psychology, going, I'm committed in the moment that I feel it, but I'm not feeling it today. Yeah. What do we do about that? So there's some thoughts I want to share, and then I'll pass it over to Mike to add some thoughts as well on this. Keep in mind, like I said, that most people will join and do nothing, and keep that in mind. What does that tell me I should do? If I'm recruiting one person every 3 months, then that's not going to be adequate. We need to change our goals. Our weekly, monthly, daily tasks need to be increased in order to get the number of recruitment, the number of new recruits into the business at a level that will stick and create growth versus manage attrition. We don't want to simply be in the business of managing attrition. We want to make sure we get above that, okay? So, of course, we all need the standardized training system. We have that in place with the weekly schedule of webinars, meetings, events, and so on. Keep in mind that if only 10 to 20% of the team duplicate, you can build a huge and very profitable network marketing business. So we don't need to be concerned when I look at psychology and the statistics of sales, conversion, retention, engagement, that type of thing. We don't need to let that startle us or give us reason to fear. We only need 10 to 20% of that to stick in order for something magical to happen. And then perhaps in that magical concept, the unicorn can have its appropriate place as a metaphor, yeah? Now, the next 2 points are interesting. The fastest way to get duplication is to teach the right skills. However, the next point I think is also really important, that we need to focus on duplicating results, not on how people achieve them, which means there is a balancing act between teaching the right skills helping people know what to do to get started right, but also focusing on results versus getting too preoccupied with the nuance of how they got there. Because some people will use one set of words, some others will use a different set. And if they got the right results, fantastic. Focus on how you duplicate the results. The next point, really, really critical. We've got to do a better job. I think all of us need to do a better job of promoting events. Again, I'll use a simple example of the weekly webinars. And I hold my own hand up here as well. I could send out a better email reminder, for example, each week prior to my Tuesday call to get more attendance on it. What can we do to get more people coming to our weekly calls? Is there email blasts that we can send out? Are there personal invitations? Can we get our prospects on? There isn't too much on these calls that we need to shelter people from, because it's a leadership focused where we're going into some real, deep diving kind of skill training that is not necessarily relevant for a brand new person. That doesn't apply too much. So we do need to do a good job of helping people see the value of coming to these meetings. If we're not getting new people to these meetings, where are they going to learn? And what are they going to be doing? Yeah. So duplication could die pretty quick if they're not jumping onto these calls where you've got some real great support from your upline all around you being made available. So I think, again, I think that's really, really well something to pay a lot of attention to. I'd really kind of focus on that as a critical starting point. Don't reinvent the wheel. I think that's another important thing. Sometimes when we're trying to understand what isn't working, we try to reinvent the wheel and do something completely all over again from scratch. And sometimes that's not always the case. We don't need to reinvent the wheel in order to get better results. But Mike, any thoughts from your end on this subject?
Absolutely. So real critical points there, how to increase retention. You started off with the constant contact, the repeat contact. I call that top of mind. Coca-Cola keeps their logo and their image top of mind with all the advertising, and people respond consciously and subconsciously with what's on their mind or in their mind, and that's being programmed with that commercial stuff. Which, to that end, by the way, I would add your life cycle plan. If it works for Coca-Cola to advertise, it will work for you to advertise, only you control the message that you're feeding your mind through that life cycle plan. So put that life cycle plan somewhere that's visible daily, multiple times. I think that's really critical. With respect to duplication, that's the key. It's not what you do, it's what you duplicate. It's the only thing that really matters in this business. It's the most important thing, because you will never take advantage of the compounding effect unless you find something simple that's duplicatable. And of course, keeping it simple is key. But when we recruit somebody into our business, when we sponsor somebody into our business, what is it that we are responsible for? Why is the word sponsor in there? Well, we're responsible, in my opinion, for giving them the best start possible. So with that in mind, some of you may remember this document here, what it takes. Here's another different version, and so on and so forth. I've got right now on my desk a bunch of getting started procedures. We're going to nail this down to give you a simple, elegant way of replicating a getting started process with someone, so that at least you know you've covered the bases where they're concerned, and you haven't overwhelmed them with it's very putting the business into context and then giving them some very clear instruction is really important. When someone, as you remember, when you were first introduced to this, you were bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, all excited, but it's a lot of emotions and it's a lot of thoughts going through your head. And this may have been their first experience in network marketing. So there's very little context for you to reference. It's a lot of information that you somehow have to compile and translate. And there's a book called Your First Year in Network Marketing. I'm actually in it, by Mark Yarnell. And it's almost a very consistent experience for people who get past the first 3 months and survive the first 3 months and actually go through the learning curve, which tends to be about a year long in this book, where what's happening is people are just trying to get context for their business, how to approach people, what's the way that attracts them to the business versus the product, et cetera. It's almost like a whole year-long process that we have to get people through if they survive the first 3 months of disappointment and so forth, which is almost invariably inevitable. So getting someone started the right way, on the right path, becomes a high priority issue for us if we're looking for duplication to take effect. What is the core golden nuggets, if you will, of ensuring that I've given my new person the best start possible with the best guiding instructions possible that are not overwhelming, but can in fact lead them to this journey that of self-awareness and discovery and context of the business. So we're working on that. That's important. Anastasia, you came on the call early when I was on. If you don't mind just sharing with the group what you shared with me, because it's sort of relevant to this. You're on mute. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. I was sharing with Mike that, remember when he was letting us know about the Science of Nikan book, and he said to get that and go through it and study it. And in that book, what I was telling Mike was, it was such an eye-opener because it literally takes you through Nikan, what the philosophy is, and then how to apply working in network marketing and building your organization. It literally mapped it out for us. I was just amazed, and it just made everything so simple. Well, then Mike has also talked about Vested Interests, the book by Dave Rolfe. So I went ahead and I got that as well and went through it. And what I was amazed is that I felt like that book then picked up after you went through Mike's book, it mirrored and then picked it up and explained how you approach it from an economic value side. Because I think so many times we get so wrapped up emotionally, and I've been in Nikan for a long time, and it's that emotional stuff between our ears that gets in our way. So I just took it from a straight business perspective and looking at it. And Dave's book, because he takes it to an economic value, it completely eliminates the emotional side. Plus, it also taught me how do I then know how to build the business. And, I've heard the leaders talk about, drilling down, taproting, but I still didn't comprehend why that was so important. Well, now I get it. Because if you can tap down, you're working in a warm market continuously, but you're building that stable foundation. And I never realized that you needed to go beyond 3 levels, because that's where the numbers start adding up. And that's what starts building your stability. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I heard it, but it just didn't click till I got those 2 books and put them together. So I'm excited. I've decided I'm a brand new person in Nikan. I'm forgetting about everything in the back that just doesn't pertain, and starting with March with my 90-day push and literally using the information. So then this card, that piggies very nicely to the back to everything, because now it's saying what you need to be doing. And it talks about the lock-in events. And so now with the lock-in events, and I've been paying attention to what's going on there, and it's like, oh, I get it now. So you're not alone. Plus, in the books, both of them, it talked about where you bring in your 3-way calls and what's critical about them, and then like the business perspective side. And the products, I believe, will it'll wash themselves out. People will know what they want. And then with Mike's contact and invite, I've been going through that plus 2 other recordings that Mike had done, and I am absolutely amazed what I've learned. And I am so excited about all of that.
Thank you. Thanks, Anastasia. So context, I think what those books provide is the context, which is a learning experience if you've never been in this industry. But if we're trying to help people become successful, I think one of the comments that Michelle Kowalczyk just put out was the idea that we're teaching people entrepreneurship. Essentially, that's exactly correct. It's entrepreneurship in a collaborative way. And so it's very rare, if you consider the business world, to have this group of people on who are so dedicated, so committed, putting such manpower into a purpose and a vision. It's really rare to be able to do this, but we have to add the business element, which is what Ben was talking about, be results oriented. The CEO, the entrepreneur who's successful in business, learns to be results oriented, not activity oriented. While it's important that we have clear instruction in terms of the activity, we've got to be results oriented. So we're not satisfied with the fact that we did the activity. For instance, it's kind of bizarre for me every time I see people apologizing for why they're not going to be on the call. I don't understand that at all. What does that have to do with anything? I'm not going to be there. Oh, great. Well, I'm not going to be on Mars either. So what does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? It's not results oriented. It's not an object or objective. It's very subjective for somebody to apologize for not being somewhere. You're the CEO of your business. You decide where you're going to be and where you want to put your time and your attention and your value. And if you choose not to make this part of your agenda, that's your decision. You don't have to apologize for it, but just understand that there is a price we pay for all our decisions. So be sure that you're objective about it, results oriented, and then the decisions become clear. One of the quotes that I sent to Jeff for a project that we're doing with Team Kaizen was the idea of make one big decision. Make one very, very tall, big decision. So for instance, this year, example, maybe the decision is, I am qualifying for Italy. End of story. I don't care what it's going to take, how it's going to take, what effort has to go into it. The activity is not relevant. The result is, and I will adjust my activity accordingly. That's the kind of thinking of an entrepreneur. That's the kind of thinking of a CEO of a business. Because in this business, we don't get paid for effort. We don't get paid for time. We get paid for results. But with the caveat that they have to be something that we can duplicate. So getting back to something simple, we've got this incentive brochure. I don't know how many of you have actually contacted Life and Balance Tools and ordered 100. Why would you order 100? Well, I guess if you expected to go through 100 prospects, you would have 100 on hand. And so is your behavior, are you acting in a way that's consistent with your expectations? Or are you doubtful? You're tempering those things with I don't know, you're not really behaving in a manner that's consistent with the outcome desired. So this is where the checks and balance come in. We can only guide and assist you. I can tell you from my personal experience, and it's written in this book, what it takes, what I did to build a large business and one of the most profitable businesses in Nikken history. So I think it's probably good advice. And if you can adopt some of that and incorporate that into your daily activity, because it's a mindset first, then that'll help a lot. And one last piece before we pass it on, ask for help. You just mentioned, Anastasia, the key to this is digging into the warm market list. Every network marketing professional will tell you cold market is not where it's at. It's not where it's at. It's 1,000 to 1. The ratio of prospects to actual business builders in the cold market is huge. It's like direct marketing. How many times you get something in the mail and you don't even bother? You just throw it straight in the garbage. I know I do. That's a real waste of money, time, energy that's gone into that. Why? Because they're hoping to thread the needle, and in our business, it's a business that is most effective face-to-face, therefore warm market. So how do I get into somebody else's warm market? Ask for help. That's the key. That's going to give you an endless supply of contacts that are referrals, therefore are warm, semi-warm at least, that you can turn into a hot prospect. Anyway, I guess, Bernadette, you've been contemplating this as well. We've been talking about having this call. So your thoughts?
Well, we're talking about some very important things, and here we're talking about sales and duplication. And I think it's really important that first we ask ourselves, what is it that I am doing in terms of sales, and what is it that I am doing in terms of duplication? I remember years and years ago hearing, it was a platinum at that time was talking about saying, we duplicate ourselves for the better and the worse. And that just, and I remember I heard that probably like 18 years ago, 19 years ago. And I remember that since that day, because he said then, so be careful of what it is that you're duplicating because people are going to do what you do, not what you say. So we really lead by example here. So I think, when we go back to the sales and duplication, it's asking ourselves, what do I do every day, every week, every month that really creates those sales and create that me being in front of my customer on a regular basis. So then, because I will teach what works when I do it myself. And if I want people to know how to duplicate that sales process, then what do I do that I know works? So I think that's important. In terms of the duplication of the results, that is so critical. That's why with beginning of March already, 2 months that went by, is asking ourselves, what are the goals that I have every month for my sales, for my duplication, for my recruiting? And then asking the team to do that. That, I believe, it's just starting with us and duplicating the simple things and giving others the opportunity to fly on their own. And what I mean by that, like Ben said, is it doesn't matter how necessary we do it, as long as the results are duplicated. We want to apply the same principle, the fundamentals, but a Gen X is going to do it differently than a baby boomer. The words are going to be communicated a bit different, and that's totally okay, because it would be so weird anyway to hear a millennium's word into a baby boomer's mouth, and vice versa, right? It just doesn't connect. So it's important to be who we are, but duplicate the fundamentals and the principles of success. And I think that's really, really important. Another, we were talking about books. I think at the beginning, people are just most of the people have never been in business for themselves when they start a business like Nikan. They've been a lot of that employee's mindset is critical. And so starting by duplicating the simple things are important. Another simple book that I always loved, I don't know how, Ben and Mike, if we took, I don't think we talked about that, but I thought it's a great book. It's Making the First Circle Work. I think it's a fabulous little book. Easy to read, really talks about basic principle of who do I start with? Me. That's what I want to add on.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I love that book. Nice and simple, easy starting point. And if everyone understood that principle as well, making the first circle work, we'd have huge difference, wouldn't we, in our business? I hope this has been helpful, ladies and gentlemen. Again, please remember as well, I should have, perhaps we can add this to our Tuesday call, perhaps, Bernadette, to my Tuesday call coming up. But I would like to spend a little bit of time as we speak about the essential elements required for duplication. Always, I don't know anyone that is a professional in network marketing that would never advocate the importance of coming to events. That's always an essential component of the process. So coming up, we've got the event in San Francisco being hosted by Bernadette in April. So that is really just around the corner when you think about it. So perhaps coming up soon, we can have some time dedicated to showcasing what that event's going to be about, why people should come along, and give you an opportunity to bring some guests and make sure that we can have this be an event that everyone can participate in and have a good experience with. So thank you all very much. Glad you're with us. Again, let's go out and look at what parts we can do better at for duplicating. And have a great weekend. Take care.